much satisfaction in terms of talent growth rate right now. And this comes from a global online survey of 412 executives conducted in 2007. So now, again, we already mentioned liberal education. That it seems to be one of the solutions. And what I've seen so far here at this university, it seems to be practiced more than, for instance, what I know from Munich, from Saudi Arabia, that we should empower individuals in the learning process and prepare them to deal with complexity, diversity, and change. And this is a particular what liberal education programs do. They, on the one hand, they allow students to acquire this broad knowledge in terms of science, culture, society, etc. On the other, you do get in-depth knowledge in a certain area, which is ultimately a major. And also, in order to become good citizens, also corporate citizens, well, we need to acquire this social responsibility somehow, and be able to transfer this intellectual knowledge into practical skills and apply it. And that's why I think the idea of applied universities is very good. Being able to apply knowledge in multiple disciplines, because from my experience, honestly, nowadays you can't just specialize in a very narrow field. That's it, unless you want you are one of the top scientists, for instance, just devoted to research. But normally, this eclectic approach seems to pay off an interdisciplinary approach. So now, finally, this question of internationalization versus globalization. Now, how can we define internationalization? It's again something we'll probably discuss here as well. Although I don't think we need to agree on one definition. But there needs to be some standardization of goals and content of education, administration, management of educational institutions. There have to be some internationally accepted criteria and international cooperation, communication and exchanges. We have to recognize cultural difference, diversity and identity, and adapt a multidisciplinary and multicultural approach. And now, on the one hand, how do we promote internationalization without losing the national identity? I think this is a question to be posed here as well. And I'm quoting Harris, 2008 here, saying that of course we have a strong pressure coming from globalized capitalism, which seeks to replace national cultures with global consumerism, and I don't think this is in our interest as single nations. Now, another question that I would like to pose is: does internationalization equal money from international students? Does it have any other than an economic value? Is it just about money? Is it connected to good education ultimately? Is internationalization equated with globalization? Does global economy render internationalization meaningless? Because why would we talk about internationalization when globalization seems to be a fact that we can't argue about? This is what Harris argues, that this idea of global culture is empty, in fact, because it's not really embedded in everybody's life. The fact that we all go and when we're in a hurry go and have a meal at McDonald's doesn't mean that this replaces our national culture and our expectations towards education at local universities, for instance. And just a brief example of China. I'm not going to go through all this. They try to become Chinese universities are undergoing this process of internationalization. And I remember I've heard quite a few students from China at Munich, and you see. They do cooperate with the university abroad, but when it comes to welcoming students from abroad, and again, I remember one of my students telling me this, well, she happened to study Chinese, so she was able to spend a year at a Chinese university, but the problem is really that there are not many programs offered in English. and unfortunately, well, English being fortunately, unfortunately, which is another topic for discussion, is the modern lingua franca. And this is the dilemma that Chinese universities face. Of course, the majority of students are Chinese, and we know how many Chinese students are out there. Now, should the programs be offered in Chinese only, or should they start offering programs in English, but bringing the Chinese culture to foreign students? So just briefly, you can see that there's, of course, I'm not the first one to address this issue here, that there's something happening. We have, this is just an example of an European Master in Business Studies, where you can see students actually get a combined degree where they've spent 4 semesters at 4 different European countries. And this is taken from the website of this program, what I've underlined as well. I haven't changed the link. They actually aim at training and developing European managers after tomorrow. Now, how do they achieve this? Apparently through offering programs at different universities, and realizing that the goal ultimately is to make sure that they actually fit easily into international companies and feel at home in multicultural environments. And of course, that they need those language skills for this as well. And it's a very much professionally oriented curriculum. And the group, even the size of student group matters. And that the fact that students do come from various nationalities. So this is one of the good examples of the Munich Business School. As you can see, again, the same goal geared towards the current needs in the economy and continuous quality control at the same time, so that in the process of internationalization, globalization, we do not forget that quality standards do matter. And we have a quotation from the dean of the Munich Business School, where what I've underlined here, I think is the key. What we're trying to do is ensure this proximity to the business world. Very much practical approach from the first semester on, ensuring contact with industry through internships and not only offering workshops, etc. Again, we don't have time for this. I'm sure you can look it all up, and maybe some of you represent the Munich Business School. But what I can't represent in the middle of it too, we have elective international options like Asian Pacific Business Studies, Arabian and Middle Eastern Business Studies, for instance, and so on. And dual degree options. And same something happening at my university, the big Maximilian University. Again, offering even 3 degrees from 3 different universities. And then the business program. Of course, the German universities are undergoing tremendous reforms now, moving from those traditional German master programs into bachelor and master programs, which are modeled after American and British programs. So something is happening. So when you look at sustaining quality of higher education, as I said, it's key, and I think what I've been experiencing now in Saudi Arabia, well, they're trying as well, but of course we cannot set the same quality criteria across the globe. But nevertheless, we have to try, and we have to pay attention to this and pose this question. We need this cross-border movement of professionals, but we have to ensure that the quality does not suffer in the process. Now, here we have the 2 most quickly growing areas for transnational education, which are IT and MBA programs. Also, most rapidly globalizing professions, engineering, construction, including architecture, and accounting, followed by medicine, specialized nursing, and international law. So, yes, that's the question: how to sustain quality of higher education when we export higher education to other regions. regions in the world. And we have to keep asking ourselves those questions. Once we've exported the program, does it still actually is in alliance with our mission? Can we actually retain any control in terms of who teaches those programs and so on? What language is used ultimately to teach? What happens with the curricula? Are they modified to a degree that we can't recognize that it's still the same program? Are the learning resources there? Are students up to the task? And then again, I've made some experience in Saudi Arabia along these lines. Are the physical facilities, resources there, and so on? These are questions we have to ask before we start exporting programs, not just saying, okay, well, this is going to be profitable in terms of money, but we have to realize that the reputation of a given organization that exports those programs might suffer in the end if we just think in terms of profitability. So thoughts of export of higher education training in terms of branch campuses, franchising, recognition as partial credit, twinning, and so on. You might be familiar with those. But of course there are challenges, right, by cross-border providers. Now what about translating degrees into national equivalents, recognizing qualifications, custom regulations, like Saudi Arabia is one of the examples where the censorship, for instance, of training materials, there are problems with visas for faculty members, there are a lot of delays with those chairs beginning those academically again. Some of the new faculty members were unable to start work on time. We have problems in some parts of the world with intellectual property rights, for instance, and so on. So just very briefly, and then I'll finish for the time being. Now there are business programs in Saudi Arabia as well, but you must realize that in most universities there is gender segregation, there is censorship as well, and that although the same courses are taught in women's and men's colleges, somehow there's more choice, there are more majors offered in men's college. I'm just talking about Prince Sultan University right now, actually. There are fewer students on the men's side, yet they have more faculty members, and it's very difficult to communicate. But nevertheless, the communication does take place, in terms of cross-gender communication on a coordination level, management level. And I actually talked to some colleagues from the business department, say they primarily use American textbooks. This is purely an American business program. Yet, of course, many students cannot relate to the examples in the book. So the examples given are from local examples from the Middle East region, so that students can actually understand a given problem. Now, something I would like to stress now, before I finish, is that Saudi government and King Abdullah as well, that they invest tremendously into higher education right now, and 20% of Saudi budget is spent on education. Students get scholarships, they actually get money to study, and there's a lot of emphasis placed on education. But of course, a lot of questions remain, which I would like to leave open for the time being, like strategic planning in terms of long-term planning, standards, quality standards, etc. And another question, are these just international degrees on paper, or are these actually acquired degrees that are comparable with the degrees students acquire here, for instance? But I won't go into this right now. There's just one very last thing which we have to, because I've already mentioned that when we talk about leadership skills, and we have an idea what we mean by leadership skills to be very successful here in this region or in America, etc. Now, from my experience, and this is not just me, I wanted to say that I've been assisted in preparing this presentation by Prince Abdullah bin Fahad bin Turkey, who was unable to come here. Also, Umar Khan Ali Shahzai, Ambassador